Yeah.
So breathing, it is the uh, inhaling oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. But respiration, it means breaking down of that respiratory fuel. And what is that respiratory fuel? Respiratory fuel is the glucose inside our body. So the glucose inside our body is broken down and it gives energy, and that is where we get the energy from. So we like there are commercially available glucose is there, right? For people who are running race and taking part in sports, they are given those glucose. That is also we take, we in our home also there are we take it from from medical stores, from grocery shops we buy that glucon D, right? That is also a form of
Yeah.
glucose. So what? Why do we take that glucon D or whatever it is? We take it in order to get energy. So in our body also already existing glucose is there. We glucose that is from the various food we take. So that glucose, what happens? That is broken down. Broken down means it breaks up inside our body. It breaks up, and in turn it will give energy. So this is known as respiration. Breathing and respiration. Now I hope you got the difference. So now the
Okay.
types of respiration. Types, there are two types of respiration. One is aerobic, one is anaerobic. So this what to say? Types, these are based on the presence or absence of oxygen. These two types of respiration, these are uh, differentiated based on the presence or absence of oxygen. Okay, so aerobic respiration, it takes place in the presence of oxygen. Aerobic respiration, it takes place in the presence of oxygen, whereas anaerobic respiration, it takes place in the absence of oxygen. Oxygen is not required for anaerobic respiration to take place, whereas for aerobic respiration to take place, oxygen is a must. So aerobic
Okay.
respiration, it requires oxygen, whereas anaerobic respiration, it doesn't require oxygen. So it can be said that this classification, these types are based on the whether oxygen is present or not. So these are the two types of respiration, aerobic and anaerobic. We will look into
Anaerobic.
details about each respiration. Now we'll look into details. So first is aerobic respiration. So aerobic respiration, we I mentioned that it takes place in the presence of oxygen. And one more thing is that respiration, we discussed that it is nothing but the breaking down of glucose. When glucose breaks down and gives energy and forms energy, it is known as respiration. Now, in aerobic respiration, same thing will happen. Glucose will break down, but it will break down in the presence of oxygen. Glucose will break down, but it will break down in the presence of oxygen. Okay, but anaerobic glucose will break down, but it will break down in the absence of oxygen. There will be no oxygen required. So here you can see this is the formula for glucose, C6H12O6. So this is the formula for glucose, GluCOSE. So this is the formula for glucose. Okay. So what will happen in this aerobic respiration? This is the overall reaction which happens. This that is this glucose in the presence of oxygen. This is oxygen O2. So glucose in the presence of oxygen will break down. Okay, glucose in the presence of oxygen, it will break down and it will form carbon dioxide, water, and energy. Okay, main thing is energy now. So we are aerobic respiration doesn't take place in order to form carbon dioxide and water. Okay, main thing we needed is energy. These are the other byproducts. These are not essential. Main thing that is essential is energy. Okay, so what happens? Glucose in the presence of oxygen, they will be converted into carbon dioxide, water, and energy. So, in aerobic respiration, what happens? Glucose in the presence of oxygen will be converted into energy, and the glucose will break down in the presence of oxygen and will give energy. Okay, so this, even though this is a very simple step, this process is not at all simple. Okay, this is a overall, as I have mentioned, this is an overall. Mm, this is to sum up the whole entire process. This is an overall uh, reaction, but intermediate in between there are many steps. This is a long process. Aerobic respiration is not a short process, it's a long process. And intermediate there are different steps. Okay, so these are the five steps that are involved in aerobic respiration. There are five steps that are involved in aerobic respiration. So the first step in aerobic respiration is glycolysis. Okay, just remember the term. Actually, so what happens in glycolysis? In glycolysis, this glucose, same in glucose, will be converted into pyruvic acid. So I will give the name, give the spelling abbreviation of this PA in the group. Sorry, in the chat box. Okay, just for your, you will mistake the spelling otherwise. Okay, so in glycolysis, what happens? Glucose is converted into pyruvic acid. Two because there are two molecules of pyruvic acid. That's why. So glucose is converted into pyruvic acid. PA is pyruvic acid. I have given in the chat box. You can have a look. So actually, this glycolysis, this is not also a very simple process. Okay, but this glycolysis is a whole cycle and it is a long process, and it will comprise of a chapter. Okay, but you will get all those in your you're now first sem, right? Second, third sem, I guess. Second or third sem, you'll not second sem, third sem, I guess. You will get a paper biochemistry. Then you will get about these cycles, okay, in details. So now, for now, we don't have to go into that, means so much details. You just remember the names, okay, because this each step, this glycolysis, Krebs cycle, all this, these are, this will comprise of one chapter. Okay, but since we are talking about respiration, we don't have to go into that much depth. You will get everything in details in your biochemistry that you will get in the coming semesters. So just remember the, just for now, just for zoology, just remember the names. Okay, that will do for this sem. So first step is glycolysis. In glycolysis, what happens? Glucose, C6H12O6, 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 12 molecules of hydrogen, and 6 of oxygen. So C6H12O6, this is glucose. So in glycolysis, glucose is converted into pyruvic acid. Then next is link reaction. Now in link reaction, what will happen? This pyruvic acid, okay, that is formed during glycolysis. This pyruvic acid will be converted into acetyl coenzyme A. Acetyl coenzyme A. This is CoA is a short form. It's the abbreviated form of coenzyme A. It is written as COENZYME. So it is acetyl coenzyme A. So in glycolysis, glucose is converted into pyruvic acid. Then in link reaction, this pyruvic acid will be converted into acetyl coenzyme A. It is in the form of a cycle, as you can notice. Okay, next comes Krebs cycle. So in Krebs cycle, what happens? This acetyl coenzyme A, again, that is formed during link reaction, this acetyl coenzyme A will be converted into carbon dioxide. So as you can see here, this is in sort of a chain. Okay, glycolysis, link reaction, Krebs cycle, and then electron transport system, electrons are transported. This is also a very long procedure. Then there is oxidative phosphorylation. So these are the 5 steps of aerobic respiration. Just remember the names for now, that will do. Okay, so one thing, that is the first step in in aerobic respiration, the first step, it occurs in the cytoplasm of a cell. All of you know cytoplasm. Inside the cell, there is a jelly-like material known as cytoplasm. Inside a cell, so that is known as cytoplasm. So glycolysis, it occurs in the cytoplasm of a cell. Okay, but the other 4 reactions, that is link reaction, Krebs cycle, ETC and transport chain, that is, and oxidative phosphorylation. All these four steps, it occurs in the mitochondria of a cell. Okay, it occurs in the mitochondria of a cell. So what is mitochondria? Mitochondria is a cell organelle that is present inside a cell. It is inside the cell there is nucleus, there is mitochondria, there is
It also
cytoplasm.
powerhouse of
Yes, mitochondria is the powerhouse of cell. Okay. So there are different cell organelles, right? Cell organelles means whatever that is present inside the cell. Inside the cell, whatever organelles that are present, those are known as cell organelles. So mitochondria is a type of cell organelle. So aerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, all the steps it occurs in mitochondria, but only glycolysis occurs in the cytoplasm. Okay. So if it is asked where does aerobic respiration takes place, you have to write. You can either write uh, mitochondria simply mitochondria, or you can choose to write mitochondria and cytoplasm. Okay, since the first step takes place in the cytoplasm, you can either write mitochondria or you can write mitochondria and cytoplasm. But I guess it will be best for you not to confuse it and just write mitochondria, because most of the part it it uh, it takes place in the mitochondria. Most of the part in aerobic respiration, it takes place in the mitochondria. So in order to in order for you guys not to get confused, you can write mitochondria. But to be proper, to be totally correct, it is in both cytoplasm as well as mitochondria. Since the first step, it occurs in the cytoplasm, that is glycolysis. Okay. Now we'll come to energy. So, what is this energy? Have you heard of ATP? ATP. What is the full form of ATP?
adenosine triphosphate.
Okay. Uh, so that ATP, this energy is stored in the form of ATP. Okay. For those who don't know, just look up ATP. Okay. So this energy, it will be stored in the form of ATP. Okay. So ATP is nothing. All right. That ATP full form is adenosine triphosphate. But what is ATP? ATP is an energy storing molecule. Okay. ATP is an energy storing molecule. All right. So in place of energy, you can also write ATP here. You can replace this energy with ATP, or you can replace this energy with the number of ATP molecules formed, that we'll get to know now. Okay, you can replace it with ATP, that is adenosine triphosphate, because this energy is stored in the form of ATP, and ATP, it is an energy storing molecule. Okay. Now coming to how many ATPs are formed in aerobic respiration. That is the amount of energy that is formed in aerobic respiration. Okay. So in aerobic respiration, there are initially in the first there are 38 ATP molecules formed. Okay, 38 ATP molecules are formed initially, means in the beginning. But you can see here the steps are there, right? So in these steps there are means two ATP molecules are used up. Okay, in order for these steps to like function, these steps to happen, the energy is also required, right? So from that 38 ATP that is initially produced, from that 38 ATP, two ATPs are used up in these steps. Okay, so the final product, the total amount of ATP molecules finally that is produced in aerobic respiration is 38 minus 2, that is the 2 used up, right? So it will be 36 ATP molecules. So how many ATP molecules are formed during aerobic respiration? It is 36, not 38. 36, because 38 was the initial product and 2 was used up. Then it is 36. Okay. So one of you told that mitochondria is the powerhouse of a cell. So do you know why mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of a cell? So I have heard from No, not most actually. If I ask everyone, what is mitochondria? All the students answer it as mitochondria is the powerhouse of a cell. So why it is known as powerhouse? Do you know why mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of a cell?
Ma'am, because there is ATP stored.
Yes, there is ATP stored. And where this ATP is formed from? ATP is formed from the aerobic respiration. Okay, so that powerhouse, power means energy. Okay, power is nothing but energy. And energy is ATP, all of you know. Power is energy and energy means ATP. So, since aerobic respiration it takes place in the mitochondria, aerobic respiration it takes place in the mitochondria, right? And aerobic respiration, what it forms? This is the step for aerobic respiration. In aerobic respiration, what is formed? Aerobic respiration forms energy. Okay, since energy aerobic respiration forms energy and aerobic respiration takes place in the mitochondria, therefore energy will also be formed in the mitochondria and energy is stored in the mitochondria. Okay, so these all reactions that forms energy, whole reaction that forms energy, it takes place in the mitochondria. And therefore, energy will also be formed there. And that's why it is known as the powerhouse of the cell. Since aerobic respiration takes place in the mitochondria, and aerobic respiration it results in the formation of energy. Okay, powerhouse means energy. Power means energy. Okay, it stores energy. That is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. Okay, so this is all about aerobic respiration. Okay, okay. Well, one more thing is left. That is examples. Where do aerobic respiration occur? Aerobic respiration it occurs in multicellular organisms. Okay, all of you know unicellular and multicellular. I guess unicellular are single-celled organisms. Single-celled or one cell, only one cell, single-cell organisms are known as unicellular organisms. Multicellular are more than one cell. Okay, so human beings will be multicellular, right? So in multicellular organisms, aerobic respiration takes place. Multicellular, or you can say eukaryotic organisms. Eukaryotes. Eukaryotes and prokaryotes, all of you know. What are human beings? Human beings are eukaryotes or prokaryotes?
Ma'am, eukaryotic. Ma'am,
Yes,
eukaryotic,
yes.
yes.
Human beings are eukaryotic. Okay, those are multicellular organisms. So, examples of aerobic respiration are multicellular organisms and eukaryotic organisms. Multicellular or eukaryotic organisms you can write. Or you can mention the organisms like human beings, and all those animals, cats, dogs, cow, everything. Okay, so all those falls under multicellular organisms. Either you can write multicellular organisms or you can mention the multicellular organisms. So aerobic respiration it takes place only in the multicellular organisms. It doesn't take place in unicellular organisms or in prokaryotes. Okay, it takes place in eukaryotes or multicellular organisms. Okay, so this is all about aerobic respiration. So aerobic respiration it takes place in the presence of oxygen. First thing, then it takes place in the mitochondria. Then third is it produces 36 ATP molecules. Okay, it is a long process and a multi-step process, long process, and it takes place only in multicellular organisms. Okay, so these are the points that you need to remember about aerobic respiration. So next we will look at anaerobic respiration. So anaerobic respiration is the completely opposite of aerobic respiration, right? Anaerobic respiration, it is it takes place in the absence of oxygen. For aerobic, here you can see this glucose it does not react with any oxygen, right? Glucose is directly converted into pyruvic acid, but here in the case, glucose it reacts with oxygen and then it is converted. But in anaerobic respiration, this oxygen will not be there. This oxygen will not be there and in anaerobic. So in anaerobic respiration, it takes place in the absence of oxygen, means no oxygen is required. And One more thing, that is anaerobic respiration. It takes place in the cytoplasm of a cell. Okay. Aerobic respiration takes place in the mitochondria, and anaerobic respiration takes place in the cytoplasm of a cell. Okay. And it produces 2 ATP. Aerobic respiration, it was 36 ATP. Anaerobic respiration is 2 ATP. So what can we confer from this? It is that in for aerobic respiration, the amount of energy formed is much higher than that of anaerobic respiration. For aerobic respiration, it is much higher, that is 36 ATP molecules. It is higher than that of anaerobic respiration, which is 2 ATP. Okay, so unicellular organisms, though they perform anaerobic respiration. Okay, and here alcohol fermentation means alcohol fermentation, all the processes, the fermentation is done by all the bacteria, right? Bacteria are unicellular organisms. Bacteria is an unicellular organism. Lactic acid fermentation, again this fermentation is done by unicellular organism, that is bacteria. And degradation of organic matter, that is also done by bacteria. All of you know that organic matter, when it degrades, it is done with the help of bacteria. That is also uh, unicellular, single celled. So all this comes under anaerobic respiration. But for examples, you can just choose to write unicellular organisms. Okay, unicellular organisms. Okay, so what happens in anaerobic respiration? Yeast. So can you give me an example of unicellular organism? One is yeast. One is yeast. Can you give me more examples of unicellular organisms?
Hydra, ma'am.
Amoeba.
Hydra, amoeba, yes. Paramecium, all the bacteria, right? Algae, fungi, everything. Okay, single celled. So, yeast is an example of the unicellular organism. So, in yeast, whatever will happen, it will happen in bacteria, hydra, fungi, everything. There also it will happen. Okay, so we are just taking an example of yeast. So, what happens? This is glucose. Glucose is converted into pyruvic acid. Then it is converted into ethyl alcohol, ethanol. Okay, then energy and carbon dioxide is given out. If you can, you can remember this uh, definition, and if you don't want, you don't have to. It is not mandatory. If you want, you can remember it. It is good for you. It is, you can include this in your answers. But for the, I'm telling this for the art students. If you find it difficult to remember this reaction, then you can skip it. Okay, so energy is formed. So energy is 2 ATP. In place of this energy, you can write 2 ATP. So glucose, it is converted into pyruvic acid. Then it is converted into ethyl alcohol and energy. Okay, and this happens in the case of unicellular organisms. Till now, anaerobic respiration, it is very easy compared to aerobic respiration, right? But there is one complex thing. That is, there is an exception. Okay, there are two exceptions. These are, one is muscle cells in excessive stress, and second is RBC. First is muscle cells and second is RBC. So RBC, what is RBC?
Red blood corpuscle.
Yes, red blood corpuscles or red blood cells. It is a part of blood. One. And what is this muscles? All of you know muscles. So this in
Yes.
muscles, that is under excessive stress only. Okay, in muscles under excessive stress, and in RBC. Okay, just wait. Okay, someone. Okay. So in muscle cells that is under excessive stress and in RBC, anaerobic respiration takes place. Okay. But following the protocol, whatever that we learned till now, whatever we learned. So following that, in muscles, that is, muscles are found in multicellular organisms, right? And RBC is also
Yes.
there in multicellular organisms. So, following the protocol, whatever we learned till now, in muscles, under excessive stress, also whatever, and in RBC, aerobic respiration should have taken place since it is
Yes.
of multicellular organisms. But there are exceptions. That is, in muscles, under normal conditions, like when you're sitting, muscles, all of you know, the flesh, the muscles
Yes.
in your body, yes. So, in muscles, like when you're sitting now, right? You're sitting in your home, or you're taking rest, or like sitting, laying down, whatever it is. So, in muscles, aerobic respiration, it takes place. Okay, is aerobic
Yes.
respiration is taking place in normal condition. In normal condition, aerobic respiration is taking place. But uh, under stress,
Ma'am,
huh? Yes.
মেম এইটো এক্সাম্পলত আমি ক'ব পাৰোঁ আমি বেছিকৈ দৌৰিলে হঠাৎকৈ ভৰিত বিষ হৈ যায় দেন ইয়াতে এনাৰবিক ৰেষ্পিৰেশ্যন হয় আৰু লেক্টিক এচিড জমা হয়
Hateway. That is what I was going to discuss. Did I discuss this portion? No, no. এটা portion discuss কৰিছো নেকি ক্লাছত?
নাই কৰা মেম
Okay, okay. Yeah, good. So that is it. That in the muscle cells, in normal condition, whenever you're sitting down there, sitting and doing nothing, then aerobic respiration takes place. Okay, normally, like this will take place. This will take place. But when it is under excessive stress, means excessive exercise, when you are doing some excessive exercise, when you are doing hard work, when you are running for like long, when you are running for like 2-3 kilometers, when you are going to the gym. So when you are doing all that, then in muscle cells, anaerobic respiration takes place. Okay, why? We will get to know that also. Okay. So, for aerobic respiration to take place, just listen very carefully. For aerobic respiration to take place, oxygen is required. Oxygen is essential in order for aerobic respiration to take place. Okay, but what happens? For aerobic respiration to take place, oxygen is required. So that is why we breathe in, right? We breathe in, we take oxygen, then respiration takes place. But one thing is there, that is, when you run, just imagine you're running for 2-3 kilometers, you tend to breathe fast, right? You breathe faster. So why do we breathe faster while we run? Because our body needs more oxygen, means our body needs more energy. Okay, normally amount of energy that is formed, that is used up in order to go through the daily life processes, whatever that is going on inside our body. But when you run, when you do some hard work, your body, it requires more energy. Okay, more energy, which means more oxygen. Oxygen will be there, then only it can react with glucose and form energy, right? So more oxygen, that more energy will require more oxygen. That is why you breathe fast. You breathe faster to supply your body with more oxygen. Then it can form more energy, and then you can keep on running. So we breathe fast while we do some hard works. We breathe fast so that we can supply our body with enough oxygen. But there comes a point where your body is unable to supply, where you are unable to supply your body with enough oxygen. Okay, your body runs out of oxygen. And when it runs out of oxygen, what happens? The muscle cells, the muscle cells, they have no other choice than to opt for anaerobic respiration, because anaerobic respiration doesn't require oxygen. Okay, so when your body cannot supply the muscle cells with enough oxygen, then it reaches a certain point when it when the muscle cells, they will opt for anaerobic respiration. They will go for anaerobic respiration and it will respire anaerobically because anaerobic respiration doesn't require oxygen and there is no oxygen needed. Okay, so at that time, what happens? This reaction takes place. What that is written here. This reaction takes place in the muscle cells only during excessive stress, only during exercises. This is what happens to people who go to the gym. So if any of you like go to the gym, so initially you tend to get a lot of ache around your body, right? Thighs, legs, hands, and everywhere. You tend to get that ache. That is not some disease, and that goes away after a certain amount of time. So that is due to this reaction that happens inside our body. Your muscle cells that runs out of oxygen and it has to respire anaerobically, and it goes through anaerobic respiration, and this reaction it takes place. That is, glucose is converted into pyruvic acid and then lactic acid is formed. And lactic acid is the thing that causes this aches around all around your body. Okay, you get that aching and everything in your body from this lactic acid. Okay, and that pain does not last because this lactic acid also doesn't last. It disappears after some time. Okay, but until it remains, you get that pain all around your body. Okay, so that is about uh, muscle cells, that is under excessive stress. So if you include this muscle cells in examples for anaerobic respiration, just remember to write in muscle cells and in bracket in excessive stress, because under normal condition in muscle cells aerobic respiration takes place. So if you mention muscle cells, you have to write this in bracket, that only during excessive stress or in excessive stress or under excessive stress. You have to mention it. And second is RBC, that is red blood cells. So why in RBC? Why in RBC, can anyone say? Yes, muscle cells is correct. Someone told like in muscle cells lactic acid is formed, and in excessive stress when it does lactic acid formed, that's why we get that pain. So what about RBC? Why aerobic respiration doesn't take place in RBC?
Doesn't take place in everything.
It is because for aerobic respiration to take place, mitochondria is needed, right? For aerobic respiration to take place, mitochondria is needed. We have seen aerobic respiration it takes place in the mitochondria. But in RBC, there is no mitochondria. RBC does not contain mitochondria. RBC doesn't have mitochondria. And since mitochondria is absent in RBC, therefore aerobic respiration cannot take place in RBC. Okay, so for muscle cells, it was only under certain conditions, right? But for RBC, it is always and forever. So in RBC, aerobic respiration does not take place. So in RBC, anaerobic respiration only takes place because RBC does not have mitochondria. And for aerobic respiration to take place, mitochondria is needed. So if it is asked why RBC uh, 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 goes through anaerobic respiration and does not respire aerobically, then you have to write that RBC, since it lacks mitochondria, and for aerobic respiration to take place, mitochondria is essential. Therefore, in RBC, aerobic respiration can take place, and RBC has to respire anaerobically. Okay, so this is about RBC and the muscle cells. These are the two exceptions, but other than these two, anaerobic respiration it takes place only in unicellular organisms, that is, single cell organisms. Okay, so I will next part is the mechanism of breathing. Okay, breathing mechanism. This is a little bit complex process. I will suggest you go through at home a little bit about this inspiration expiration. So next class we'll cover this portion. Okay, mechanism of breathing. So I'll suggest you go through at home from that book that I gave you, ebook. It will be in there. Okay, this mechanism of breathing. So today we will only look at aerobic and anaerobic. So is it clear? Did you
Yes,
understand?
ma'am.
Yes. Okay. So I will. You have to do one thing at home. Okay. This is not an assignment. This is not an assignment. I'm not giving an assignment, but this is for your own benefit. That is, if you happen to have offline exam, this is a must question. Okay, this question will come for sure if you have offline exam. That is difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Differences between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. Difference. Don't go through Google. Don't go through any other means. No need of going through books. You can write five differences or like four or five differences from whatever I taught today. Okay, from whatever I taught
Okay, ma'am.
today, just mention those like uh, uh, presence of one occurs in the presence of oxygen, one occurs in the absence of oxygen, and the
Okay.
one occurs in cytoplasm, one occurs in mitochondria. Then amount of ATP is different. ATP one is there, one is this one, and one occurs in unicellular, one occurs in multicellular. Then there is this is a fast process. It is a fast reaction, anaerobic. Aerobic is a slow process and it takes this time in multi-step slow process. There, it is there. So many from whatever I taught today, you can write like 4 5 in Assamese লিখিলে নহব এক্সামত ইংলিছত লিখিব লাগিব Assamese লিখিলে নহব okay about that for Assamese medium students I know it will be hard for you because the scientific terms and all this those are hard but you have to make that habit of writing and learning everything in English because in exams you don't have any you will not have any option of writing in Assamese and stuff like that okay so you have to write in English and this difference also you have to write in English only no Assamese no Assamese talking to me we can talk in Assamese no worries in that but while writing answers English only English because this course is English not Assamese and make sure you make columns and write columns means in your copy just make draw a line in between in write aerobic respiration one side anaerobic respiration one side and write point wise 1 2 3 4 5 like point wise okay that will carry marks if you write
Okay,
paragraph
ma'am.
wise even though many points are included in those paragraphs you will not get marks you'll get less marks so
Okay, ma'am.
make sure you write point wise like 4 5 how much you can write as much as you can but don't
Okay,
go
ma'am.
through any Google or don't no need of consulting books you can consult books no doubt but I wish you write from whatever that I taught today okay
Okay, ma'am.
and if you have while after writing it if you think you need to check with me then you can show me otherwise no need this is not a must thing okay I'm just asking you to write for your own benefit this is not some assignments or something like that okay but if you
Okay,
want
ma'am.
to check your answer then you can show me otherwise no need
Okay, ma'am.
okay so any doubts from here you can ask and any doubts from this portion you can ask now and just give your roll numbers give your roll numbers in the chat box if you have not yet and don't give multiple times numerous times don't give only once it is okay for those who have not given your attendance just give it and we have like